getting ready this morning, I was putting on my makeup and I was listening to podcasts. And one of my favorite podcasts is something called the Perennials Podcast. And a full disclosure, it is a podcast that is run by my niece, Victoria Russell. And she takes on issues of millennials and talks about seeking wisdom in your late 20s, early 30s, and what you're learning, and turning to other people to find out what they've learned and seek their wisdom and guidance as well. I love this podcast for a lot of reasons. I love my niece, first of all, but secondly, I love that she's creating these thought-provoking conversations at such a young age, and that they're extremely authentic conversations. These are real conversations, and that the conversations they're having in their late 20s and 30s are really applicable to people my age, people in midlife, because we're sort of going through very similar things. It's a very thought-provoking time. I'm in transition. I'm in between things. I'm starting over, empty nest, downsizing, menopause, all these things. So we're not exactly in the same place, but there's some human elements of fear, uncertainty, what's next, or what's my purpose, or why am I here, what else do I have to learn, that I think we can all share across multi-generations. There's a lot of quotes out there that talk about like the crack is where the light gets in. Rumi, Leonard Cohen, certain people have spoken to this concept. To me, when we talk about the cracks, that everything has cracks, I think that's sort of a new concept, or it's maybe an old concept, but something maybe as humans we haven't yet quite accepted, because there's always this idea, and maybe especially on social media platforms, where we're always showing our perfect selves and only the surface selves, and that we're trying to compete to always seem that we've got it all put together. And I think one of the reasons people are responding to podcasts, or maybe hopefully something where I'm putting these clips up that are edited but not really, they're sort of off the cuff, they're not slick in any way, shape, or form, they're just my stream of consciousness. And I think like people are responding to that because it's not slick, it's not overproduced. I'm telling you, I've got lots of cracks and I have lots of imperfections, and I think those are the things that are more interesting to people, because most of us have cracks and imperfections. That when we try to cover up the cracks, we don't let in any light, we don't let in any learning, we don't let in any curiosity, we just kind of keep everything out. I think about my mother's generation. She was raised in the 50s. Her parents were children of immigrants. And I think there was this real sense of like, we don't talk about the imperfections or the cracks. We just need to go out there and push through it. And we are strong, and we don't talk about those things. We don't show weakness. And I think it worked for that generation. I mean, life was hard. They came through depression, 2 wars. It was not easy. And these are the kind of things that strengthen them. However, they had children in the next generation. And we felt very lucky. We weren't raised in such hardship. A lot of us were the first generation to go to college in our family. But there was a lot of cracks starting to show, that life wasn't perfect, that just because we had these advantages or that we were living in a different world, it didn't mean our lives were perfect. It didn't mean that we weren't stressed. It didn't mean that we didn't have depression and anxiety. So for many of us, we were the first generation to go to therapy and to start talking publicly about what was underneath this facade, what was underneath this idea that I have everything worked out and it's perfect. When I started blogging, when I became a mommy blogger, it was because I couldn't connect with any of the information that was being put out there by women's magazines that was saying 15 ways to be the perfect mother, 10 meals that will wow your family, 3 ways to make your husband love you. It was like, I need to talk to things that are complex and deep, and not telling me just to put on more makeup or put on different clothes or patch things up and pretend they don't exist. I want to speak to what's in here and not just what's out there. Mommy blogging was really powerful because it allowed a lot of us to be authentic, to express our fears and anxieties, to ask for help in ways that we couldn't do so in real life, because on the playground or in the PTA, there were a lot of women running around presenting themselves as these perfect wives and mothers, and it was intimidating. And there also was no space and no air and no room for us to say, hey, wait, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, hey, wait, I need help. Hey, wait, like, I don't want to do it the way everyone else is doing it. It doesn't feel good to me. It doesn't feel healthy. And I don't blame those women, because we all were raised in the same culture. We're all reading the same magazines. We're all watching the same TV shows that are telling us that as women, we have to do everything. We have to take care of our family, and we have to do it all perfectly. And the minute we do it even slightly imperfectly, everybody jumps in and is willing to point it out. Now, getting back to the multi-generational thing. So my generation, we started to see the cracks. We went into therapy. We asked for help. We started blogging about our feelings. We started sharing our imperfections. We started trying to be more authentic, because living a life where we were constantly filling up those cracks or putting band-aids over them so nobody could see them did not feel good to us, and it felt grueling. It felt like a lot to try to keep up. And we don't want to give all our energy to pretending like everything was perfect, when we'd rather give our energy to the things that really mattered, like our family, like our jobs, like our fun, the things we want to do for pleasure. The millennials have now taken this to the next level. They started seeing the cracks way earlier. They started seeing the cracks in their childhood, their imperfections. They went into therapy earlier. Obviously, it was easier. Their parents had been to therapy. There was no longer this stigma attached to therapy. So they have been going in and talking about their feelings from a much younger age, so that when they get to 30, it's not this scary thing. And now they're creating these podcasts, which are amazing. They are thought-provoking. They are deep. They can be life-changing. So a midlife woman like me can listen to a podcast that a 30-year-old is doing, and I can come away and say, yep, I get it. And I get that the millennials are sort of tired of carrying these wounds, these cracks from generation to generation to generation. When the generations didn't deal with their own stuff, it's gotten passed down. So a lot of millennials are saying the buck stops now. We're not passing it anymore. We're going to talk about it. We're going to bring it out into the light. We're going to shine the light on the cracks, on our imperfections, on our issues, and we're going to send love to it, and we're going to send light to it, and we're going to send hope to it, and we're going to transform the way we see things, and maybe hopefully the way other people see things too.